So this isn't our usual podcast, is it, Natalie? Good
Not
morning.
at
How
all.
are you?
Good morning. Try things different, right?
Yeah, so we've had there's been a lot of news this week. There's been a lot going on. Natalie and I have been having this chat, and we thought, you guys should join us. Everybody should join us in our conversation. The things that we talk about behind the scenes as we plan our weekly coverage, as we plan our social media, as we do the things that we do behind the scenes to bring you guys our car reviews and car news. Natalie and I thought maybe it's a good idea if we just share some of that insight with you, so that you're in on the conversation too. So welcome to What Drives Her, but it's what drives us.
Right.
So it's Friday morning.
Woo-woo.
What you been doing all week, Natalie?
Cars, and more cars. All the news, all the cultural things. Like, I just feel like there's always so much going on, right? And even driving cars, So working on some fun social stuff. It's eat, sleep, drive all the time. Cars,
We call that work.
right? We're just living.
But the difference is I really love what I do, and I know you do too.
Yeah.
So that makes work fun. I feel like if you don't wake up in the morning thinking about what am I going to go do today, feeling a little charged about your day, then you might be doing the wrong thing. And I love what I do. I wake up every morning thinking about, okay, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do next? What's going on? And we sat here and put together these ideas for what we're going to talk about on our podcast today. And for me, it just kind of rolls off the tongue because I'm so excited about all the things that we get to talk about. And it's been a very interesting few weeks. So why don't we jump in? The big news that I heard yesterday was that the automakers can now apply for tariff rebates for all those tariffs that they've been paying on the cars and parts that they've imported from overseas for what's it been, like 8 months, 6 months, 8 months, something like that.
Right.
So what does that mean? Well, the good news has been long since the tariffs started. Car makers said, we are not passing that along to the consumer. We're going to eat that cost and do what we can to reduce it. So they made some reductions and some efficiencies behind the scenes, and then that 10 or 15 or 20 or 25%, it's just fluctuated. They've just eaten that. And they've had a tough time I want to say the last month. Almost every car maker that makes EVs has said that they have posted a loss based on those EVs in billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars. General Motors, Ford, Volkswagen, they've all posted losses based on their EV production not because EVs are a bad idea, but because the marketplace pivoted.
Right.
And they were kind of stuck holding the bag. So it's interesting. GM posted a loss, but they're marching forward. They have the new Chevy Bolt out, which we will have a review on very soon. Cadillac has actually shown an uptick in sales over the first quarter. So we're really looking at February and into March. Cadillac has seen sales increase, which is amazing. And then we've seen Tesla, I believe, also had a sales increase. But there's Nissan. Cadillac. Let me look at my notes because I know Cadillac had a sales uptick, and I believe it was Nissan as well, because of their EVs. So that's pretty good news, considering that a lot of brands are leaving EV production. So, Natalie, I think you've got a list there. What EVs are we saying goodbye to?
Yeah, so we're saying goodbye to ID4, the Sony Afeela, Acura ZDX, BMW iXM, Nissan Ariya in the US, Tesla S, Tesla X. Wow. But you know what? Hello to BMW iX3, which just won World Car of the Year if you haven't checked it out yet.
And we're going to talk about World Car of the Year too, by the way.
Ooh. Yes. And then that's Toyota Highlander, BZ Woodwind, off-road, definitely favorite there. CHR, Subaru Getaway, Uncharted, Trail Seeker, and Solterra.
So those have all been either relaunched or refreshed, renewed, or they're brand new. I'll tell you, I'm really excited for the Rivian R2. And so here's an interesting little fact. Every time we rate something about Rivian R2, our numbers go up into the right.
Yeah.
And it's not just us. The interest in Rivian R2 is phenomenal. And there's a lot that goes into that. So the autonomous hands-free driving, which will roll out in the Rivian R2, but in the second half of this year, when they start to build, they'll start to integrate some new technology. It will become even smarter with AI learning, and will what they call basically the Rivian R2 will be like a moving info pod, gathering info everywhere it goes, everything from like, road construction and clogged gutters to, I mean, just anything and everything. If there's a new cafe on the corner, it will absorb that and make note of that data so that you can, whether or not you're driving a Rivian, because they'll sell that data to other places, they'll sell it, it's a marketplace, so they'll sell it to Google or Apple or whoever wants to buy it. And you'll be able to connect that data to, there's a new cafe on the corner, and it's a new coffee shop, and you want to know, does that coffee shop have, matcha latte? And you can just ask, hey, Rivian, there's a new coffee shop on the corner of 5th and Elm. Do they serve matcha latte? And even though the place is just opened,
Right.
Rivian's AI will be able to go into the cloud and tell you, oh yes, they have matcha latte on the menu. And then you'll be able to place an order, in theory, at least at some point. If it's it's a new Starbucks, you could say, oh, there's a new Starbucks on the corner. Hey, Rivian, will you place an order for my favorite venti latte? And the system will be able to do that while you're driving. And then you can say, hey, Rivian, find a parking spot. Or at some point, hey, Rivian, there's no place to park. Drive around the block while I run inside and get my latte. Can you imagine that? And you can just pull up, hop out, the car drives itself around the block. Now, this is not what's coming in the R2, but this is coming. And this is the kind of the data that they're gathering, or they're going to be gathering in the second half of this year, and the technology that they're putting into that will allow you to do that eventually. So you think about it this way, when you like pick up your kid at school and there's two of you, you and your husband are in the car, or you and your mom, and you're like, okay, I'm going to wait for you right here, run inside and get him. Well, the car will be able to do that for you without, the car can just sit right there, and if it needs to move, it will move. If it needs to park, it will park. You could tell it, wait for me right here, but if a parking spot opens up, pull into the parking spot.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? And that's what's coming. That's what the future of driving looks like. So I think that a big part of the excitement for the Rivian R2 is what it means to the future. I think there are a lot of tech people who are looking at that content and want to know more. And I think there are a lot of people who want that kind of technology, who are thinking about that as a purchase option. But I also think there's a lot of people who want that Rivian, and I think it carries about a $40,000 price tag, and it will have over 300 miles of range.
Oh, wow.
And it will have hands-free driving. Now you got to pay for that. I think it's $2,500, but you'll have that hands-free driving point to point. So it still will drive you literally from your driveway to whatever destination you set without touching the wheel. And it will, you have to pay attention. It may tell you, nope, you got to take over here. You got to be ready for that. But that's something that a lot of people are very excited about. And so you think about, so for under $50,000, you get an EV that you can plug in at home, that will drive you point to point, that has over 300 miles of range, and we'll get over-the-air updates, so that range might actually increase over time. That's pretty incredible for 50 grand. Considering 50 grand will get you also something that costs you, you know, $50 or $80 a week in gas, and then you still have to do, you know, oil changes and things like that. That's harder on brakes and tires than an EV, although EVs are pretty hard on tires. That, you know, it's not that smart and won't drive itself. That really gives you something to think about. So that's something I'm pretty excited about. And then we're also expecting a later this year. They've already announced that they're going to do it. Lucid coming out with a smaller, more affordable luxury EV. I believe they're calling it the Cosmos and the Earth, or there's two. There's one's called Cosmos and one's called Earth. We don't have a lot of details on it yet, but they also say smaller and more affordable means $50,000. So not cheap, but it is a luxury brand. And then we have a Scout coming later next year. So they were hoping to, I know there was a lot of hope that they would get off the ground in 2026, but even at the very beginning when they started building their manufacturing plant, their assembly plant, they kept saying 2027, 2027, yeah. 2027. So, but I think now it's production. I think they were hoping production would start in 26, but it looks like it's going to start in 27. So a lot of excitement. And here's the crazy thing, is the excitement is still around EVs.
I know, you know, still charging. Like I have a lot of friends asking, saying, what should I get, you know, for my charger on my wall? You know, we have a video up about that. So if you're curious about EV chargers, definitely take a look. Very easy to install at home. And I like that too, because a lot of people are afraid. And now it's like, well, gas is expensive, so you might want to take a look. So people have been pivoting, at least in my circle, of like, okay, what car do I switch to? Do I go on the website? We've got tons of different ones you can look at. But
so that's interesting. So you were driving an EV recently, right?
Yes, yeah, Toyota BZ Limited.
The Toyota BZ Limited. Mm-hmm. And so give us the thumbnail sketch. What's that car all about?
So thumbnail sketch. This is going to be, you know, the next EV that will help you commute. And you don't even have to think about like those oil changes, going to the gas station in the morning, which you know you'll never do. You can charge overnight. Exactly. Like you just take out all the stress, and you know it's very easy. No matter which trim you get, I think you get a good bang for your buck. You know, it's very spacious, especially as an EV. You know, it's a commuter, but it has great range too. And what I've noticed, like I think it was like $2 or $3 we spent in the week that we had it. So that versus gas at Costco was not fun. So I was definitely missing the BZ when it went home.
So, you know, do you feel like the pendulum is swinging back towards EVs?
I do think so. I think that people are realizing like, oh, I kind of like having the option, which for me, I would stick to a PHEV just because I like having the option, because look at the market. It's been fluctuating too much. So for people that are like, I don't know if I want to commit to full EV, definitely look at a PHEV.
Yeah, I like that idea too, that you can plug in and drive it for 30 or 40 or 50 miles.
Yeah.
One of my favorite PHEVs of the last year was the Mercedes 350e. We've got a review of that here. We'll leave a link down below. And that one really surprised me because they said 50 miles of range, which is amazing. That's a big battery and it's a big commitment to the powertrain. So if you think about adding like, I mean, you know, anything like your house, you know, say you already have an air conditioner, like a standard air conditioner, and then you're like, you know what, let's add a heat pump for winter so that our winter electric costs are lower. So the cost of that heat pump might be like $10,000 or $15,000 to add that to your home, and maybe you have to do extra duct work or whatever, who knows. But, you know, like that's kind of crazy. It would take you so long to earn back what it costs to put in that heat pump that you probably wouldn't do it. You probably just say, you know what, let's just keep the temperature a little bit lower and wear an extra sweater, right?
Right.
So that's kind of what car companies have had to think about too. Do we add that PHEV because that the battery, the weight of the battery, the plug, so you've got like extra equipment for that in the car, and then also you've got to provide that to the buyer. You have it's a whole different electrical setup and computer setup, and now you've got additional computers, and it's pretty complicated to add the plug-in electric hybrid infrastructure into that gas-powered car. But we've learned enough about hybrids that we know how to do it. We know like how to do that efficiently is now a known factor, but you still have the equipment cost. And so that Mercedes was able to add this without a significant uptick in the price of the car, which I'm not remembering exactly, but I want to say it was around $60,000. So it wasn't like one of the EVs that was canceled this year was the Genesis G80 electrified. So that was their electric version of the G80 luxury sedan. And one of the big deals about that car was it was a $10,000 price difference between gas and electric. And that really was accounted for by the fact that the electric infrastructure was so much more expensive. But if you think about a much smaller engine, a much smaller component, a motor and battery system, even if it's not, 50 miles versus 300 miles, so thinking, it's a quarter of the size or less, that's not really how that works. But that it still is, and it is not going to be a quarter of that price. It's not going to add $2,500. It's probably going to add more like $5,000 or $6,000. And the manufacturer's making that work without raising the price dramatically. So it might be a little bit more, but not a lot more than the gas-powered version. So if you think about that and you do the math on your end, how much are you going to save? Like you said, it costs a couple of dollars to operate that car for the week. I'm finding like $3 a week for my Hyundai Ioniq 5. And if you do the math on that 50 miles, if you can plug in every day or every couple of days and it costs you $3 a week versus $80 a week in gas, that's savings. Even if it costs more, which I don't think it did, but even if it does cost more, you will earn that savings back very quickly. And that's something that we have seen a lot more focus on as people are thinking about EVs versus gas-powered cars. And there was I want to show a video here. And this is a little video that we called Smart Girl Math, showing how to calculate the difference between a gas-powered car and an EV. So let's take a look. You've heard of girl math? This is Smart Girl Math. I went to Electric for All's cost calculator to see how much I can save each month by charging my car at home versus paying for gas. Charging my car at home will save me $1,100 a year versus what I would pay in gas and maintenance. It will also help me understand what the upfront costs are of buying an EV, show me EVs that are new and used, and also where the incentives are, because there are still incentives. First, I had to invest in charging at home, cost $400. First year of savings, $700. Bye-bye getting gas. And hello, Gucci bag. So that's a video that I ended up doing for Electric for All, which is a .org. And the mission, of course, is the industry wants people to be smart and educated about EVs. And so they asked a number of us. Liv Lee was one of them, one of their creators. You'll actually see or hear their ads on Malcolm Gladwell's Revisionist History podcast. They're a fan of Malcolm Gladwell, so I listen to his podcast and you'll hear their ads on his podcast. But there are other places you'll see this messaging too. In fact, they also were written up in the New York Times not that long ago. Jack Ewing, their EV reporter, did a story on the pendulum swinging back the other way on EVs and more people shopping them and buying them. And so it's a great resource to have, because if you're thinking, I don't know if this is the right way to go, you can do some research and you can get some information on not only those calculators. I love calculators. Is it going to be cheaper than buying gas, or how much will I really save versus paying for gas? And when I did my video, gas was at $2.50 a gallon. Now it's at almost $4, but it was at $2.50 a gallon, and my savings was over $1,000 a year. It's doubled. The savings have doubled
Wow.
since then. So yeah, it's kind of interesting that now that even and the prices of EVs have come down. So they could actually be cheaper than a gas powered car to buy and cheaper than a gas powered car to operate, yet you still get more luxury and features. And 3 years ago, when they started building them, that's a car that's brand new on the market right now. It's 5 years in the planning stages, and 3 years ago is when they planned all the things that are going to be in that car. They call it content, but all the things that are going to be in that car, they started that 3 years ago.
Oh,
So
wow.
you look at the wireless phone chargers and the haptic feedback buttons and the bigger screen and the panoramic sunroof, all those things they thought about when gas was cheap. And they thought about, how do we attract people to EVs? Well, the answer is spoil them with the good stuff.
Right.
They'll they'll buy into this technology that manufacturers know they need to convince you of the technology now, because this is where we're going. These are going to be the cars of the future. Consumers need to get on board. This is how they're thinking about getting people on board. And so when you're looking at buying an EV right now, their prices are lower. They've definitely evened out from for a while, they were so much more expensive than gas powered cars. That has evened out. They're not more expensive now. And you're really now paying for what you're getting, as opposed to paying more for the same thing, which is how it was in the early days. And then they're cheaper to operate. So for a lot of people, really the question comes down to, how do I make this work for my lifestyle? Can I charge at home? Do I have access to fast chargers, DC fast chargers, near my home when I need them? You don't want to use them every day, because that's going to end up being like you lose the savings essentially. Can I use this to road trip? And when I do road trip, where do I normally go? Do you have routes that you like to go all the time? Like, we go to the beach, we go to the mountains, we go to
Right.
visit these people or those people. So I kind of know what my road trip travel is. So when I road trip, if I want to take my own car, can I charge along the way? And then, can I accommodate whatever it is I need to charge at home, making sure that, the trickle charger is only going to add about 30 to 50 miles a day, just regular standard, a household plug. It might actually be less than 30 miles a day if you plug in at night. So, that's a hard one. If you're going to drive 50 miles, then you're going to end up doing some DC fast charging. Can you add a level 2 charger to your home? That video that Natalie mentioned, by the way, tells you how to do it for cheap, like $150, $250, $300, something like that. I think I said 4, but a lot of those chargers the plugs have actually come down in price. So it's not quite as expensive as it was even when I shot that video. But those are the things to think about. And I look at it this way, Natalie. All of those early adopters who bought Teslas and Nissan Leafs bought them and drove them when there was no public charging.
I know, it's so hard.
There were no public chargers, so they were charging at home, and they were finding where there were chargers. I mean, back in the day, there were like some office buildings had them.
Right.
Occasionally you'd find one at a Whole Foods or a library or something.
Oh, yeah.
But there were not very many of them, and they were slow and often broken.
Right.
And so you really could not rely on public charging. And they did it anyway. They figured it out. right?
They were brave.
Yeah.
They helped us out for today, so thanks.
So tell me so you said people are, what do you see people interested in terms of which cars they're shopping for EVs?
Ooh, I was surprised. A lot of different options too. Like one of my friends was like, I want to get, the EV, was the EX30? EV,
Hmm.
right? Yeah, EX30. Yeah. My friends are really tall. And so I said, like him and his partner were like, oh, like we're like 6'4", do you think we both can fit in this? And I said, well, yes, if you don't have any like passengers in the back seat. And they're like, well, we want to drive friends. And I said, no, like you may want to look at maybe a Lexus, they're like, oh, okay. So they did some test drives. And they found bring the friends with them to the test drive so that they can test it out. And see, like, is this going to work for me? And then also what incentives they have at the dealership, because some of them are doing their own deals. So it's pretty interesting to see what they're trying to get out there. Now that we don't have the government incentives, there's other things going on. And I feel like that's a fair trade, especially with the way things are trending. But I love charging. It's fun. Like when I get to try it out and show my neighbors, because, they're 55 plus, and trying to show them like, hey, you can actually switch your car out and you won't ever have to gas up, and you can save money, like, because they're on limited income. It's good. So they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. So they're trying it out, charging it, and like, oh, wow, I think I need one.
One of the things I love about charging is that, so something we don't think, a couple of things that we don't really
Right.
think about. Um, so first of all, most electric utilities are regulated by the state, meaning they can't just like the way that the price of gas has fluctuated up and down, and
Right.
you know, right? They're saying that because of the losses in the Middle East and all the war and all the damage, that our gas prices are going to remain at $4 a gallon for the foreseeable future. Some people are saying it'll be back down in a few weeks or a month. I don't think so. I think it's going to be a while. And the reason is because the industry will recoup what
Right.
they have lost. They will, they're hurting or they have losses. They have to rebuild those refineries. They have to rebuild those storage tanks. They have to rebuild that infrastructure that was lost and damaged. So because of that, because it will take some time for oil supply to get back to where it was and production to get back where it was, we are in theory energy neutral in this country. And what's so interesting is that people kept saying, oh, well, we need to be energy independent. We need to be neutral. We need to not rely on the Middle East. True. We shouldn't be relying on anybody
Right.
other than our own resources for things that are important to us. But what happens is we produce oil here and then it's sold on the international market. And if you're a business owner, why would you sell a barrel of oil to your neighbor for $50 when that guy over there is going to pay 100? Like, this is a business. This is not out of the kindness of your heart that you're going to give that guy the oil for $50. This is a business. And if they're willing to pay $100, then that's probably what you should sell it for. And if you're the one selling the oil cheap, that's a .org or a nonprofit or a not-for-profit thing, but oil is not a not-for-profit business. It is definitely a for-profit business. So that's one, and that's one reason why, that's probably why the price of gas is going to remain high for a while. But the other thing that's so interesting, and I'm going to show a graphic here, is where does your electricity come from
Mm.
on your electric grid? And I went down the rabbit hole on this last week. I was writing a story about charging cars
Right.
and EVs. And so somebody had told me that, well, I've heard a couple different things. One is I've heard that Texas gets a lot of its electricity from wind and solar, and that we don't use oil as a primary source for electricity, which is counterintuitive, right? This is Texas. We drill oil, right? Drill, baby, drill is what they say, right? And turns out that's not true. So this graphic shows how much of our electricity comes from wind and solar. And you look at that. If you add up those numbers between wind, solar, and nuclear, 65% of our power comes from wind, solar, renewables.
Oh,
65% of the power in Texas. If you go look over at California, it's over 85% of
hmm.
their power comes from renewables. So you can see why people, especially in California, where the
Hmm.
last thing they want are power plants that cause pollution, because pollution hangs in the air and causes health issues because it can't get over those mountains. The
Yeah.
wind, even the upper level wind currents are not strong enough to blow it out of the valley and over the mountains unless there's a huge storm. So generally, if they have pollution, it just hangs there, and it's
Right.
throughout all of California, anywhere along the coast, which of course is where all the people are. And so, but Southern California especially, but also Northern
Mhm.
California, also the Bay Area, um, they need renewables that are not causing pollution
Right.
because they need air to breathe. For us in Texas, it just makes sense. It's windy every day. There's wind.
Yeah.
I live in Central Texas, but even in East Texas, it's more like the Midwest. It's kind of flat,
Hmm.
and it's very windy. We have wind that will sweep down from the north, like from, you know, the Arctic Circle essentially, or Canada. It sweeps down from the north, and because there are no the way that the path that it comes down uh, towards the equator, it's not really blocked by anything, and so we have constant wind all the time in Texas. And then we have wind coming from like Mexico and from the Pacific. Brings a lot of dirt and
Yeah.
gets my car very dirty. But we have constant wind here, constant breezes here, and that's something that I think people are not aware of. And same thing with like New Mexico and Arizona, Nevada, Utah. A lot of wind, probably less than Utah because they do have big mountains, but a lot of wind here. And yeah, let's turn that into energy. That's kind of, again, that guy selling that barrel of oil for 50 bucks or 100 bucks, you know, you sell it and make money. We have free energy that all we have to do is collect it and then we make money. That's a business. So it's kind of crazy to look at where the energy comes from in Texas. And that somebody asked me on my story about the energy grid
Hmm.
and charging EVs. And the question was, so what's that got to do with charging an EV? And I said, well, you know, I feel more confident about the, you know, clean, renewable power sources. If I'm buying an EV, I buy it for two reasons. One is I like the way it drives. I just like the whole package, the way it drives, the aesthetics, the features, and all that. But also that I get to plug it in and not use petroleum. If I want to use petroleum, I can buy a gas car. So if I can plug it in, but if I'm plugging it in and I'm using petroleum, isn't that kind of just canceling the point,
Yeah.
right?
It's a fair
So
argument.
knowing that I'm not using fossil fuels to power my car is important. Now I looked at some other states, New York. A lot of states use natural gas to power their power plants. A lot of states.
Mm.
That's probably the number one resource if you just look across the entire country.
Right.
A lot of them use some amount of oil. Hawaii, this shocked me. Hawaii, the number one source for electric power plant fuel is oil. It's 100% petroleum.
Wow.
And Hawaii, like they have a
Oh, yeah.
lot of wind, and I would think they would have also hydroelectric
Yeah. And solar, like all three.
and solar. Well, they get a lot of panels.
Wow. Mm.
But yeah, you would think, but the
Huh.
mountains are very high and they have a lot of waterfalls, and then there's
Mm.
winds and surf. I mean, the surf is
Yeah.
amazing. So you would think that Hawaii would have amazing renewables. Not a bit, not a drop, 100% oil.
Wow.
So I don't know. I'm thinking Hawaii, I'm blaming them for cloud cover and climate change. Like they're I'm joking because they're a very small player, but not nearly the population that we have here. But that was a surprise. That was a surprise. Not as much of a surprise as Texas getting 65% of its electricity from renewables, though. Pretty amazing.
Hmm.
So, so let's move on. Natalie, you've been traveling a little bit lately. Tell me where you've been.
I've been traveling. Let's see. We went to California. We drove the Mazda CX-5. Let's see. Where else did we go? Oh my
You went
goodness.
to Alabama for
Yeah, we went
something.
to Tuscaloosa, yeah, Alabama for
Oh, what
Mercedes.
was that?
Mercedes is definitely something different. I loved being able to go and see the plant. They had the first GLE off the line there because they were doing a world premiere for the GLE and the GLS. And to see the first one and then know that the 5 millionth just ran off the line was pretty cool to be a part of that history right in the flesh.
That's amazing. And so your story about the GLE, which is their sort of mid-level. Let's talk about Mercedes naming protocols because I find them to be very confusing. But G stands for Geländewagen, which is their SUVs. So anything with a G is an SUV. And then there's A, B, C, D we don't have anymore because that was diesel, but they don't
Yeah.
make diesel. They don't sell diesel in the United States anymore. E, no F because we're not doing that. And then S, standing for Sonderklasse or special class, meaning the top of the line. And then there's AMG on top of that. And then there's EQS, standing for, or EQ actually, for electric quotient, I guess. I'm not really sure what the Q is for, but EQ. And so there's the EQE and the EQS. We're going to see those go away. We're going to see the EQ technology as the marker for their EVs going forward. So they're in the middle of a pivot on EVs as well. They're not backing off of EVs by any means at all, but they're rethinking how they name their EVs so that they're more clear to the consumer. When you go and you look at a CLA, which is their entry-level sedan, which I just reviewed, and I reviewed the electric, but there's also a hybrid. When you go and look at the CLA, which is their entry-level sedan, you can see, do I want electric? That's the CLA with EQ technology, or do I want the CLA hybrid? And then when you look at the the B, so GLB, which is there's the GLA entry-level SUV, the GLB, which also has an EV version, it's a GLB and a GLE. So it gets confusing. It gets confusing. But there's the B version. And then there's the C, the GLC, which is their number one seller. And for good reason. It's nicely outfitted. That's the one that had the GLC with the EQ, with the hybrid. GL350E, GLC 350E was what it was. So their naming gets me every time. I have to really work through it to understand what all their names mean. And they're in the process of changing it. But it will even out. And I think if you can follow the A, B, C, E, and S, and AMG, which is AMG is a whole different thing. Those are hand built. If it's a true AMG, it would be Mercedes AMG. But if it's a Mercedes-Benz AMG, that means there's just a design package added that looks like AMG, but the engine is not the AMG. But if it's a Mercedes-AMG, then that means that the engine is the hand built, the suspension, the chassis is tuned for AMG performance. It'll have AMG brakes, it'll have AMG exhaust, and some other things that make it truly a high-end performance car. And then the GLE and the GLS. So tell us about the GLE.
So the GLE, definitely, this is like luxury out of the box, and you're getting a lot standard premium features, which I loved because, you get to have a little bit of opulence on your daily drive. And then that Mercedes-Benz a super screen, so cool. And I love that you can share that with your passenger now. So everyone gets that beautiful view. My favorite, Mercedes-Benz with the ambient lighting. I love that you can change the color to your vibe. it's definitely a unique experience. Like you feel like the best way to describe driving a Mercedes-Benz, like you feel like you're in a spaceship of luxury because it truly is.
And for so long, I have felt like Mercedes-Benz interiors were overwhelming to me. You would get in and you have these like round turbines, glow, they could backlight them and they glow, and it's like, oh. And then huge screens and lots of them. If you go back to Mercedes like 4 or 5 years ago, not that long ago, and there was like whole panels. It was like getting in an airplane cockpit. Whole panels of switch gear, buttons and dials and all this stuff. And it's overwhelming. And I kind of think, I get in and I kind of think, I don't need all that, do I? To drive this car, do I need that? And I feel like the quieting the cockpit and minimizing it and making it just a little less overwhelming and putting some of those things on the screen that I can set it and forget it. Because a lot of those buttons,
Right.
a lot of that switch gear was kind of set it and forget it stuff. Things like auto hold. Do I really
Right.
need an auto hold button? Like, let me just toggle it on the screen. And then I don't ever need to press that button again. I love auto hold
Yep.
dearly. That's one of my very favorite features. When I press the button, press the brake to the floor at a traffic light or stop sign
Oh,
or
yeah.
wherever, the car holds in that position until I tap the accelerator. I don't need a button for that. Put that
Yeah.
on the screen. Um, all kinds of stuff. You need climate controls and a radio volume dial. I think those
Right.
things, like when you get in the car and it's 100 degrees outside and it's 150 in your
Oof.
car, I want to tap that air conditioning on really fast. I do
Yeah.
not want to tap a hot screen and try to find the
Oh no.
settings on the screen. So I like a climate control panel, which they have a nice little panel underneath that super screen now. And I like having quick access to the radio. I want to be able to turn the music down or off, tap it and turn it off. If somebody else has been driving the car and left
Oh
the
yeah.
music on really loud, and you get in the car and you turn
Oh
it
yeah.
on and say, "Oh, I need to turn that off really fast." So I appreciate that. But the rest of it, I think, can go in the screen. Headlights, automatic headlights. I do not need a separate button for headlights or control for headlights. The headlights should come on when it gets dark, and you should have daytime running lights when it's not dark. And
Right.
if you turn on your windshield wipers, your headlights should come on. It might not actually be dark, but if it's like you get one of those rainstorms that's comes up really fast, and to turn your windshield wipers on, you have to assume other cars can't see you, and so your headlights should come on. But in my mind, that's kind of it. I think your headlights should be set it and forget it in the screen as well. There's some other stuff too. There's a lot of other stuff too, actually.
Oh yeah.
And that's what Mercedes has done. They really quieted the cabin. I like that screen a lot. I like that it's rests low
Exactly.
set in the dashboard. It doesn't stick up over the dashboard anymore. And a design that I'm going to say we first saw from Hyundai. Hyundai was the first one to do that. And Hyundai and Kia, they get the design props for coming up with I shouldn't say coming up with standardizing the screen design that the industry went with. That's pretty good.
Helps for visibility, from setting your seat. I definitely feel like, sitting inside of the GLE, and being able to like see over everything. I'm like, oh, okay, this is short queen friendly. But the visibility is like, it's such a thing, you don't really think about that, and you're like, okay, I'm in this really big SUV, thankfully everyone's now moving everything lower, but it gives you that little extra. And I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think everybody appreciates that.
Hmm.
Visibility
Oh yeah.
is the thing. So speaking of visibility, you did a nice little story on how to set your seat, how you set your seat.
Oh yeah, had to do it for my short queens because I know it's hard. Or even if you're like a teen driver, right? Someone trying to do that. Or I think about even for like a grandma, like sometimes it's hard getting in a seat and setting it, you know. And where do you do that? You know, if it's manual or if it's automatic. There's different ways that you can get in and be in control of your settings, and that's the biggest thing. No matter what car it is, you want to feel empowered and that you are driving it. It's not driving you, or you're not driving over that, you're driving forward.
I see so many people sitting too low in their
Right.
car.
Like they're sleeping or they're just hanging out. You know, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And the other thing I'll point out is that the seat should
Hmm.
like come up to should meet your shoulders. Like
Right. Like it
it should,
hugs you
it
comfortably.
shouldn't be like your shoulders here and the seat back is over here. If
No.
you're sitting
Yeah.
here like this, first of all, you're like
For
you're not in
safety.
control of your own torso.
Yeah.
You're like the car's moving or you're turning or whatever, and you are, you're the driver, you're supposed to be in control and you're moving around like this.
Right.
You need that seat to support you. You need good back support, and you don't need to relax back against it, but it should kind of meet you and be just right like this, right next to you.
Yes.
And that's where you're going to be because that's going to just keep you from moving around as a driver. That's going to keep you solid. And if you ever drive with, and I know that you've done this, Natalie, but if anybody else has never done this, you should definitely take a hot lap with a pro driver at some
Oh
point.
yeah.
It's one of the most fun things you'll ever do. And you watch these guys, and they sit back in their seats, and they drive like this.
Yeah.
And they're like,
Comfortably.
180 miles an hour around a curve. Okay, slow it down to 50. 180 miles around this curve. Slow it down. It's crazy how little they move. Their hands like just move like this. And they're just totally in control. Now I think sometimes they ham it up for the audience in the car, but
Yeah, because they run it like they're making pizza. Yeah.
yeah, but
Understandably.
they're totally in control. And a lot of times, I mean, there was one driver I was with. It looked like, honestly, it looked like he could be like just, I don't know, just like sitting and watching TV. Like he was just kind of,
Change the music montage to it, right?
yeah,
Classical
like,
music.
I mean, meanwhile, I'm like being thrown around the car. Like,
Yeah.
it was crazy how little he moved. And I remember thinking, okay, your foot operates separately from the rest of your body. Your hands are here and in control, and your eyes. Like each part of your body has to operate independently. Whereas
Right.
I think we're like the way that we have driven because this is how things happen. We're like, oh, well, oh, I'm turning here and I move my whole head as
Right.
opposed to I just move my eyes, right?
Exactly.
And now I know you got to be able to turn your head to see where you're going, but mostly, and you know what? And that's going to become a thing that's less required. And another reason why that visibility is more important
Oh yeah.
because it's less required now to have full vision around, to be able to turn and see behind you. In fact, my test drive this week was Polestar 4, no rear window. I was completely reliant on the digital rearview mirror and my side mirrors and a really nice high visibility, high seating position and good visibility all around. I need that 180-degree visibility to see where I'm going, especially merging onto the highway, merging to get off the highway, backing out of my driveway.
Oh yeah.
I really had to be very cognizant of where I was. Now, I'll tell you the rub on that car because it was quite the experiment to see, do we really need a rear window? And Polestar, and it's a luxury car. It is a luxury car. It is beautiful. They put some beautiful design into it. This is the luxury arm of Volvo, which Volvo also it's really performance arm of Volvo, but they are luxury cars. Dual motor, so it has all-wheel drive, 544 horsepower. So
Ooh.
it is like just driving
Wow.
around town. I mean, I'm not flooring the accelerator or anything. I'm at a traffic light and the light turns green and I just move away. And I look back in my digital rearview mirror and all the other cars are still sitting there at the intersection because that's how long it takes. That's how much faster
Oh
the
yeah.
EV is than those gas powered cars. They're still sitting there. So, but here's the thing is that this car, the car I drove had an MSRP of $65,000.
Hmm.
Volvo or Polestar is taking $10,000 off the top of the price of that car. So it's
Wow.
50, $55,000. And then if you live in California, you get a $12,000 tax credit. Now, you've got to have $12,000 worth of taxes that you owe to the state in order to get that credit. But if you make enough money that you owe the state of California $12,000, and actually it's not that much money because their tax rate's pretty high, and you bought a Polestar 4, you could take $12,000 off of your taxes, not your earnings, but your actual taxes, which is amazing. So that brings it down to $43,000. Then there are other incentives. So there's like a $2,000 incentive for turning in a gas guzzler. So, okay, now we're at $41,000. The electric companies offer $2,000 credit for installing a EV charger in your garage. And that probably could be a wash because if you do
Right.
what I did and you just give them those, mine was $450.
Yeah.
So or $400. So that's probably all you're going to get. They give you up to $2,000. So you can buy a $2,000 system from like ChargePoint or I think there's
Right.
one called Sunroom. And so you can buy one of those. And if it's $2,000, you essentially will get it for free. And then there are some other incentives too. There's certain towns and other places that have incentives. So you could, in theory, buy the $65,000 car for about $40,000. Holy cow.
That's awesome.
Quite a bargain. Quite a bargain. So I looked at that. I mean, I just doing my research on the Polestar 4. I was shocked that they're taking 10 grand off the price of that car. Back before when we had those federal incentives, it was very common that car makers would take that $7,500 off the top of the price of the car because most cars didn't qualify.
Oh wow.
So when the incentives went away, people said, "Is this going to ruin the the EV car market?" And I said, "No, I don't think so, because most people don't get that. The manufacturers get it; they're taking it, but are they going to figure out some other way? Because they're all about incentives all the time to sell cars. So will they figure out some other way to, make that $7,500 available to customers who buy these cars? Probably. And they are. Cadillac is offering $7,500. There's a lot of cars that are offering 5,000, 7,500, Polestar at 10,000 off the price of an EV if you would like to buy an EV. Ford has something they call the Ford Promise, where they will not only give you a free charge station for your garage, they will give you, I think it's up to $175 or something, credit to have it installed. So
Oh, cool.
they will pay to have it installed for you, which is amazing. And then they'll recommend local installers too, which I think is
Oh,
a
wow.
good idea, because the guy that installed mine, I had to have him come back and redo it because he didn't do it right the first
Oh
time. So they
no.
don't all know what they're doing, even if they say they do. So
Yeah.
installers is a really good really good resource. So, you look at EVs that way and you think, wow, it's an even better deal, because
Oh
often,
yeah.
like the Mustang Mach-E is a price parity with other four-door sedans or small crossovers, say like a RAV4 or something like that. And then you get a big discount and you get free charging station in your garage, which is pretty amazing. So that makes it cheaper all around. And then it's cheaper to fuel. And you get 300 miles range on the single charge. Pretty good. Pretty good.
It's amazing.
I want to shift to the topic again, because you also went to an event near you with Mopar, right?
Yeah, Texas Motor Speedway. We had Mopar Heaven. So Mopar, if you don't know, parts, right, and services to help, Dodge, Ram, Jeep, right? So all your favorite Stellantis goodies, and getting them to have the most performance and aesthetically pleasing things as well on those vehicles. And I loved it. It was so cool because what is it all about? Culture and bringing those people together. And what I loved the most about Mopar Heaven was that it started as like, a small event, very local to DFW. And it ended up now the 10th iteration with Dodge sponsoring for the first time. And it was so cool because we were doing thrill rides on the track with professionals. So it was really neat to see it all come together and people now seeing the new generation and getting to sit in the seat. That was really cool.
So do they do this other places or is it just a Dallas thing?
So it has only been here for 10 years, but now they're looking at expanding it. So that's really exciting.
I love seeing that culture play out in a IRL in a real life
Yes.
situation that's not at a dealership. So
Right.
what did you do? You got to so talk about the tell us what you saw there.
It was really cool because you got to see everyone's modifications that they like to do on the car. So whether it's bright lights or they pick their favorite fandom, maybe it's a video game like, Halo showing Master Chief, or maybe it's, some comic book characters that you might see, vendors that actually show, hey, like I did the lights over there, check them out. So you can see it right there and ask questions. I love that. It's very much just like a conversation no matter where you go, whether it's just the vehicle expression, the parts that go into it, meeting new people and having fun and just seeing that everyone was having such a good time, whether they were just watching or participating. So it was a little bit of back and forth and you could see the inspo because there's little kids watching like the burnouts and, watching them do hot laps or just like racing on, the oval. It's really, truly something. And it's a cool experience if you've never been to a racetrack and, being able to drive on the track. So there was a lot of cool aha moments happening for everybody there.
That's amazing. And I think that thing that's so interesting is even if you're not like a Mopar family, you don't
Right.
own Dodges or Jeeps, you can still go and get a feel for what this culture is like and maybe, say maybe you have another off-roader,
Right.
get an idea of like how people are modifying their Jeeps and get a chance to get in the car and do a hot lap with a pro driver, which is amazing, and experience that. We were talking about that before.
Oh, yeah.
And if you ever get a chance to get in a car with a pro driver and
Do it.
absolutely do it. Put that helmet on and have fun because it is incredible. So while you were at that, I was at the New York Auto Show.
Ooh, tell me more.
I know we had talked about this before, but this year at the New York Auto Show, we did something different that we've never done before. So every year when I go to the New York Auto Show, I do tours. They put I get a ticket page and they put up the tours I'm available for, and people can buy tickets for the guided tour. And it's like $65 a person, $35 for kids. And so this will be next year because this year's over. And people sign up to tour the show with me. And so like all the things we've been talking about here, I will walk around to all the exhibits with new cars or concepts or whatever the news is. And then we'll also talk about the faves, like we talked about. We not only talked about the Mustang, they had the Mustang GTD there, but we also talked about the Mustang Dark Horse and other Mustang models, the old
So pretty,
favorites. Ones that, if that $350,000 GTD is not on your shopping list, and by the way, there's no rear seat. It comes with a huge wing. It's really designed for track driving. It really is. It's a specialty, like a trophy car. So it's for that owner who likes to collect expensive cars. But you love the idea of the Mustang. There's a Mustang for every budget. So we talked about that. So even if your budget is not huge, $30,000 range, there's a Mustang for you that will give you 300 horsepower and a really amazing experience. So that was kind of nice. Same thing over at Chevrolet, looking at the Corvettes. They're a little more expensive, but the average Corvette average starting price is around $50,000. So for a mid-end, maybe $60,000 for a mid-engine sports car that is like as fast as a Ferrari and has very similar design, pretty amazing. So anyway, so we go through the show and we talk about all the news and all the things that are cool and interesting. We watch the Hyundai's robotic dogs dance, and we looked at the new Hyundai Boulder concept, which is
Ooh.
like a Ford Bronco or a Jeep Wrangler. So lots of news this year, but the thing that made the tour so interesting is this year we had this really great group of Instagram and YouTube celebs who did tours.
Yes.
So Abbas Wahab, who's a comedian, well-loved comedian. Tom Volk, who has a YouTube channel, and you also find him on Instagram, Driven with Tom Volk. Kelly the Car Mom did tours. Sophiane Bay of Redline Reviews was there for tours. Eddie X, who is formerly of Vehicle Virgins and now has his own channels, and he's definitely a rock star in our world, did some tours. So we had a really good group, and we are going to expand that for next year. So next year, if you're going to be in New York, it's right around Easter. It's always Easter. I think this next year it'll be like the last week of March is when we'll have our tours for New York Auto Show. So that was cool. And then we also kicked off the New York Auto Show with the World Car Awards.
Yes.
And we were talking about goodbye BMW IXM or IXM, which has been their flagship EV, the big SUV. They're going to discontinue that. That's because they are coming out finally with what they're calling their Neue Klasse, which is the new class of cars, this new technology that we'll find in both the EVs and the gas-powered cars, the Neue Klasse. It's design, it's the front end, it's the silhouette, it's the rear end, it's the powertrain, it's the chassis, it's the in-car technology. All of it comes together to give you this incredible modern function and feel. And the BMW iX3, which we did get a chance to see, I haven't driven it yet, but we got a chance to see it, won World Car of the Year for 2026. Amazing win by BMW. They actually also won the World Electric Car. So they walked away with two awards. And the chief executive, Oliver Zipse, won for World Car Person of the Year. So they came away with 3 awards this year, which was amazing. Wow. And so if you look at the other winners, so the Mazda 6E, which is their electric concept vehicle, won for Design of the Year. Hyundai Ioniq 6 won for World Performance Car. Lucid Gravity won for World Luxury Car. The Neo Firefly, which is a Chinese-only car, won for World Urban Car. 100% electric this year. 100%. Wow. That might be the first, or it might actually be the second time that that's happened. But we look at how over the last few months, we've been pivoting back from electric. If you look at, so when in the fall, when the Trump administration canceled the EV credit, the federal EV credit, which by the way, was like several months after Canada canceled theirs. So it seemed punitive because we have so many car makers who have headquarters here, and so much EV production had shifted to the United States. So I think a lot of manufacturers were upset about that because the perception is these EVs just got more expensive. That's not the truth, but that was definitely the perception. Yeah. There also was a perception that EVs had failed. Our federal government was saying they're a failure, so we're not going to invest in them anymore. That's not true, but that was the perception. And then a lot of pivot back towards gas-powered cars. Stellantis announcing they're going to be bringing back the V8. They're going to be building more 6-cylinders. You actually were in the Dodge Charger 6-pack, which is a muscle car. So we just ran a review on that this week, on the 6-pack. And so the perception is that those cars are all coming back and that we're going back to gas-powered cars away from EVs. That's not the case at all. That the truth is, first of all, that 6-pack was in production for 5 years because that's when we had to start planning it. So it was before all of
For
them.
everything, yeah.
I knew that the federal credit would phase out at some point. I'm disappointed that it didn't phase out slowly. Like they didn't
Right.
roll back for, for a year it's $5,000 and then it goes to 3,500 and then it goes to 2,000 and then to zero. Like that would have been the smarter way to do it. Um, it seemed that the announcement was punitive of the former administration that passed, or they didn't pass the credit either. The credit was I guess the credit was passed during the Obama administration, so it's been because it's been with us for a while. But actually, yeah, I guess it was. I don't know. I'd have to look that up. But
Wow.
had it for a while,
Yeah.
um, and it was the things that grease the wheels of American industry are important. And even if it's something that uh, you're not a fan of because you don't like that technology personally, okay. But if as long as it's not dangerous and hurting people,
Right.
technology that helps our American businesses perform better and be more profitable is important. And I feel like the message that was sent was counter to the truth, or to the reality, I should say, which is what we saw at the World Car of the Year Awards. Every single winner was electric, and
That's
that
so
was
cool.
pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. So, what do you think of driving electric cars, Natalie?
I love the power. It's just exciting, just that, I know not necessarily gearhead, but I love that 0 to 60 acceleration. Like, it's insane. Like, one of my favorite 0 to 60 experiences was in the Elucid Air. That was really cool. That was at the IMPA Drive. Being able to see like different Lucids next to each other, and then even at Electrify, seeing the Gravity. I just love how, like you were talking about, bringing all of those like luxuries into a standard experience. And the more and more that we see that, it's really exciting to see where other standard cars go, like to compete, because it's really hard to step out of an EV and then get into like a gas powered car and you're like, yeah, no, this is not the same. Like I
No,
feel like I was spoiled and now I'm going back. Like I don't want to do that. Yeah.
EVs are the drive is so effortless,
Yeah.
and that's when I get back into like the gas power car. I feel like I have to work too hard.
Yeah. It's like go,
But
go, go. I'm like, come on.
I, I appreciate a and
Of course.
I will say that I felt like after driving the Charger EV, which is the
Mm,
Charger Daytona, and then driving um, the six pack they've made a lot of accommodations in that car that makes it easier to drive.
hmm.
And I don't feel like driving. One of the things is the open cabin. So remember the Challenger of your
Oh yeah, the
like
two door. Yeah.
you were in the bucket seats and the center console, like under your elbow, like your arm was raised up pretty high,
Hmm.
and I felt very hemmed in. It could be hard to turn and look just because the seat was blocking you. It was like
Right.
holding you
Like a
in.
race car seat. Yeah.
Yeah, and also really low roof line, and so I felt it was a little more challenging to get my seating position where I felt like I needed to be up and high enough so I could see everything. And the design of the Charger, interestingly, has a very heritage feel to it, and those
Right.
heritage cars had very open cabins. They had, if you remember, like now the dashboard is really big and they carve out a footwell. Back in the day, the dashboard was just there, and then all the space underneath it was open. Like your gear shifter was kind of out in the open there, and it wasn't built in. There was no center
Yeah.
console.
No.
It was like you might have like a box of tissues there between the seats, but it
Yeah.
was people would actually add holders in the between the seats to hold things, like to hold a box of tissues or a can of soda or something. Um, but the cars didn't come with those, and they had very open cabins, and our cars have become the cabins have become very closed and very tight, hemming you in, and part of it is to keep you anchored in your seat, but
Right.
part of it was there's just so much equipment that needed to be covered, put under something. And so now with all the electronics and all the digital stuff and all the computerized stuff, they don't need all that anymore. So they're able to open that space up. So the heritage look of the Dodge Charger six pack it's more of an open cabin, and I love that. And that is part of what makes it feel just so much effortless to drive, is that you just sit back, you relax, and just drive. You don't have to worry about, your elbows, kind of being glued to your side, because that's the only place they can go. Like, you can just sit back and relax. And so I really like that. But I also like one pedal driving. What do you think? Are you yes or no on one pedal drive?
Depends on the car. Like, I loved it on the Chevy Bolt. That was fun, doing the one pedal. But some cars I just want to drive. So it depends on the vibe. But I think for efficiency purposes, it is actually really cool, and it's different. And I think it's great for new drivers, especially because if we're going forward, right, and if we're thinking about EVs, people are going to probably learn that and then forget about how to drive the regular way. I don't know. That's at least where I see it. If they're not already being driven by like something like Waymo, right?
It is. Well, I will say it is like you've got to develop that muscle memory if you're going back and forth between. Well, let's end it on that note, because we've talked a lot about EVs today. We talked about World Car of the Year. We talked about New York Auto Show. We talked about your experience in Tuscaloosa with the Mercedes GLE and GLS, and you'll find both of those stories on our site. Volkswagen Atlas, we got to see that at the New York Auto Show. There's a story on that on our site. We actually have a second story coming because that is such a great redesign. We're so excited about that. And then Infiniti QX65 we saw for the first time also at the New York Auto Show, and I'll be driving that next week. Ooh. So Natalie, when I see you next, ask me about the Infiniti QX65.
Yes, but first, Scotty, before we go, we have to talk about our big giveaway.
Our big giveaway. Yes, we need to talk about our big giveaway. So we have announced our first winner, and that will be, you can see that over on our Instagram. And we are now going to launch our second big giveaway. We got all kinds of gear to give away. So do you know off the top of your head what's in that giveaway, Natalie?
Ooh, we've got a lot of cool swag, so you can take it on the go with you. This is like outdoorsy, so I can't wait to show you more, but you have to be subscribed to our newsletter. Look on the Instagram so you can see a little bit more into that list. It's a cool bundle.
Yeah, everything's on there, but this is swag that we collect at events that we go to. So we go to car drives, we go to car shows, we go to different places, and we grab these swag bags and they go in the swag closet and then they go to the swag winner. So congratulations to our most recent winner. And if you did not win, you will have an opportunity to enter to win our next giveaway, which we are launching right now. And we will probably have, so it's April, we'll probably announce our winner in June. We're going to let this one, because these are big. These things are worth like, I don't know, $1,000 or something. It's a lot of merch. A lot of merch.
A lot of good stuff you'll want to enter. So be sure to tag everyone in the comments, and good luck.
That's right. Good luck, everybody. Thank you so much, Natalie, for joining us. Natalie, my co-host and producer. Thank you to Steph Howard, our editor. Our music is by Envato Elements. Be sure to subscribe to What Drives Her wherever you get your podcasts, and join us again next time. Thanks, everybody.